thanks for joining me today for my breakdown and review of his Dark Materials Season 2, Episode 3, entitled Theft. Before I get into it, please smash that like and hit that subscribe button and notification bell so you're alerted to the next video. And be aware that this is a breakdown review of the episode, so heavy spoilers are ahead. The episode starts with the witches walking through their decimated island. Serafina looks devastated, but there is a monologue from Serafina that tells of how the witches, as angry and hurt as they are from this attack, have to keep their eye on their ultimate goal of finding Lyra, the child of the prophecy. To that end, Serafina sends her demon Kaisa to seek out Yurik Bernison, and we're happy to see Yurik because, well, he's awesome. We find out that armored bears have also been affected by the opening in the sky. The seals have depleted and they are running out of food in their area, and the ice in the mountains are melting. And even though Yurik emphasizes with the witches about what's happened to them and the news of the attack by the Magisterium, he offers no help until he hears Lyra's name, which was a really cool shot showing how much he cares about her. I also love the conversation between Kaisa and Yurik as Kaisa tells Yurik about the prophecy and how Lyra has to do what she has to do in ignorance in order for the prophecy to come true, and Yurik kind of gets really annoyed at that, as if Lyra is a pawn in some game, but he plays his part nonetheless and tells Kaisa that Lyra went after Azrael through the portal. So now the witches also know where she is, not exactly where, but that she's gone through the portal, just like Mrs. Coulter, who is of course still looking for Lyra as well, and heading north to the portal because she knows that Lyra has gone after Azrael. Meanwhile, Lee Scoresby is still tracking down Stanislas Grumman, and before we see Lee, we are shown a scene of a man with a ring, presumably inside these shacks, and calling to Lee and telling him to return, as if summoning the wind to bring Lee to him. We hear his voice echo and take us to where Lee's balloon is, being taken by the wind to a small town that he wasn't heading for called Yenisei. Could this mysterious man be Stanislas Grumman? Lee ends up asking around at the local hotel and bar about Stanislas Grumman and is told to visit the observatory and ask about Grumman there, which he does but finds another doctor there, Dr. Haley, who is a devout follower of the Magisterium. After asking about the whereabouts of Grumman, Lee is shot at by Dr. Haley and ends up killing him in self-defense. Thankfully, Dr. Haley told Lee where Grumman was last said to have gone, somewhere up the Yenisei River. After this occurs, Lee Scoresby is arrested by the Magisterium, who we saw earlier in the hotel bar and we figure followed him to the observatory, since he was asking about Grumman, who is considered throughout the area as a studier of dust and considered a heretic. Now, in the books, we are told a lot more detail about Grumman and how he was known to be a shaman and adopted by a tribe who drilled his skull, and that the tribe called him by another name, Jopari. Get it? Like John Perry? I was disappointed at first that this episode didn't expand on details of Grumman's identity, but my disappointment was immediately reversed, and I was ecstatic to see how the show inserted a brilliant change to the screen adaptation by having Lee Scoresby and Mrs. Coulter meet. You see, in the books, Mrs. Coulter and Lee Scoresby never meet, and for me, this was a very cool change as we see these two major characters who love Lyra in very different ways meet, and through this scene, we are told some backstory and character development of not only Lee Scoresby, but also Mrs. Coulter. Through understanding the love Lee bears for Lyra by not giving up any information about her, Mrs. Coulter frees him, telling him to protect Lyra at all costs if he finds her first. I also really loved that scene, Mrs. Coulter in the hallway with the monkey, after her interrogation of Lee and how his words affected her, showing her in a very vulnerable moment. After he is freed by Mrs. Coulter, Lee sets off to the Yenisei River without his balloon, mind you, so once he finds Grumman, I presume they will be back for it. Mrs. Coulter also receives a telegram from Lord Boreal, aka Sir Charles as he's known in Will's world, that he knows where Lyra is. Speaking of Lyra and where she is, in the episode, Lyra decides to visit Mary Malone again, alone in Will's world, but doesn't tell him in order to protect him, knowing he's wanted by the police. Unfortunately, as she meets with Dr. Malone, she runs into Boreal's henchman, and after being questioned by him, she ends up running away into the arms of, or should I say, the car of, none other than Boreal himself. Also, I gotta say, I really wish that they had stuck to the book material on what kind of car Sir Charles drives in Will's world, which is a Rolls-Royce. A Rolls-Royce would have given off a much more rich and authoritative vibe than a Tesla, but that's just me. Anyway, he ends up stealing the alethiometer from her bag that she callously leaves in his car in her hurry to get out of it. Meanwhile, having been left alone in Citigaze, Will looks for Lyra. He runs into one of the young girls, Angelica, who's staring at the tower and a mysterious person inside. She denies there's anyone in there though, or any way to get in or out of the tower at all. She says that the Torre degli Angeli, which translates to the Tower of Angels, belongs to the Guild, who she says her brother told her about, consisting of a group of alchemists and philosophers who are all cowards and have all run away after the specters took over the town. And she warns him once again that he's close to the change and that he needs a plan before the specters get him. Having seen Lyra briefly before she runs away being chased, Mary Malone is trying to make contact with Dust unsuccessfully through cave, but later is finally successful to make contact and receives a message through the I Ching, and it tells her, "To the mind that is still, the whole universe surrenders." This scene really signifies how hard one has to concentrate and empty their mind in order to make contact with and channel Dust, almost in a state of trance, showcasing another tool with which Dust speaks through, similar to how Lyra uses the alethiometer. Later, having finally found Lyra's note, Will comes to get her in his world, and Lyra tells him that Sir Charles stole the alethiometer. They want to go and get it back, but have to wait until nighttime before they do so as to avoid being detected by the police. This next scene was also brilliantly done, Lyra and Will at the theater, where she tells him about Roger's death and how her father killed her best friend, and him telling her about coming to look for her because he was worried about her, solidifying their friendship further. Homage to Paddington Bear was a wonderful addition. Seeing Pan look at Paddington was so cute and just melted my heart. At night, they go to Sir Charles's house, who finally reveals himself to Lyra as Lord Boreal and tells her that he will give the alethiometer back if she and Will get him what he is after, the knife in the Tower of Angels. And they tell him that they will get it for him, and this ends episode 3. How will they get inside and get the knife? We'll have to wait till next week to find out. So what did you think of this episode and the changes they made, especially of Lee Scoresby and Mrs. Coulter's meeting? Leave your comments, theories, predictions down below, and be sure to hit that like, subscribe button, and notification bell. Until next time, bye!